it's a bad call. And
I'd prefer Ezreal, to be perfectly honest. I think Ezreal Zoe is so strong, but instead they do decide to go towards a top lane matchup, and it's Akali. So Akali's been changed quite a lot on this patch, and that is going to be the choice into the Gnar. The all-in potential is there. You can definitely abuse the mini Gnar, but I feel like it's not necessarily as cut and dry as the Aurelia.
That's scary, because that is, you are not matching that push.
No, not in any way.
It will be...
You're not really looking towards any late-game team fighting, though, if you do lock away the Karma. Just because there is not a lot of frontline available outside of Just Cuz, and so this will add a bit more hard CC and a little bit more go-in. And we also saw Keria have a wonderful performance on this in-game #1, managing to snipe Ezreal's left, right, and center. If DRX win this, I mean, man, the story moving into Game 5 is just going to be absolutely fantastic. And I think if you have a look at the drafts down the line, DRX should have an advantage if they can stem the bleeding early. This time, as the Ignite is actually utilized very early. Meanwhile, a fight on the top side of the map as well. Onslaught of Shadows comes down. Canna from over the wall, and the execution is absolutely perfect to get the first blood for the Akali. So necessary, as well as now Kingen in some trouble. But he should be all right as Faker lands that bubble, actually flashes on top of him, picks up the barrier, as well as now Sulker's the one that has to run. The flash over, Faker finds the solo kill, but it's answered in the end as well.
Herald's a really big one. Both teams are collapsing.
Yep, in they go. There's Keria flashing on forward. Onslaught of Shadows comes down, and Sulker completely removed from the fight. Finds a couple with the shockwave, but he is too far out of position. The rest of DRX say, well, I guess we'll take a consolation blue buff and hope things are going to be okay. Chains of Corruption land onto Becca. Quickness utilized. He will get himself out of the way. So,
back appropriately, not the case there. And it's not end of the world. Again, the wombo combo is insane. It might find a kill here.
Yeah, we're looking for it. Pioshik's going to dive on top of Keria right now, keeping himself alive for a while, but the exhaust is going to be put down. Solar Flare comes through as well. They trade 1-for-1, and now Teddy's looking for more. The teleport coming through to help out. And there's a horse down here at the same time. Piercing Arrow will connect. The Rampage just has a drive-by, and now Faker gets to come on throw down all those summoners with the W, and T1 will mop it up. A little bit in this matchup, it does certainly feel like Kingen has been the better man as far as the 1v1.
And this is with a counter pick, right? Like, it's not something you get away with. Kingen has your fed, but you don't have Mega Gnar, and there's a lot of damage available.
Yep, and now he's going to be put into the blender. Canna gets underneath the turret, and you don't even need perfect execution to lock that one down. It's just
the best turret to go down for Zoe, because now all of a sudden the mid lane is dangerous territory.
Oh, speaking of which, Faker looking for it onto Sulker here. Prowler's Claw comes out as well. Shockwave does find two this time. Faker has to flash to get himself out. He waits, has the blast going. The dissonance isn't enough damage. But that is definitely a very friendly move.
Ironically enough, the exception being Karma, who's had a bit more rough as the steal attempt comes through.
And Pioshik just has to leave. Cuz says thanks for the leash, and that's just the state of the jungle at this point in time. Unfortunate for Pioshik. He almost got away with it, and Cuz, you can see the big grin on his face as well.
Desperate, and they start making plays like this. They don't have cryo, they don't have the vision, they don't have the setup.
Oh, can Keenan find it again? Canna is able to get that backflip to get him out of the way, and now it decides to go back in. There's a perfect execution. Locks it down. Turns it straight onto the face of Kingen. However, he's still going to fall down. Pioshik does have the ulti button, presses it, and says, outplay this.
Okay.
All right. He's got two deaths. That is definitely the Noggery moment.
But
100% agree.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Now, remember that cleanse from before? Now the flash is down. Solar Flare comes through. There's a lot of CC available here. Grand entrance, that's pretty cool, but I think Faker can actually survive this pretty comfortably, and now Becca has to escape. Sulker going to move on down. He's been putting out fires this entire game. Now they're just zoning DRX away from this situation. 4 versus 2. Pioshik is on the top side of the map. And now T1 should be able to at least finish up this outer turret, as Bubble's going to connect as well at the same time. And yeah, it's a lot of damage with these piercing arrows as Duskblade already completed for Teddy. Will remain alive, and T1 also going to get out of there. Okay, Pioshik now should be able to find Teddy. The flash comes through, but the Stun is going to be there. Pyosik ohm-wrecks the turret, and Bao will survive in the end. The last auto will be denied. They don't have the health bars to challenge this. And is this... It's just Infernal Soul stolen away. The backs are even stopped. As Solka is in trouble. He does find a defensive shockwave. Flashes his way out, and he survives. Somehow they trade supports. That's not the target that they were looking for, so definitely a sick play is now Kana. Off to the side, he's looking for Kenan. Ults his way through and then gets back to the Shuriken. Not able to lock that one down. But T1 now have just so much more value in this composition. The Infernal Soul is so strong, but DRX demonstrating that they have still got fight left in him.
Oh, that's a big teleport, King, and if he can get his Narbar.
Yeah, it's in a pretty good position right now, but you can see Cuz just going to try and execute Bao. Bao, he's out of this fight, burning down with the red buff as Faker blocks down King as well. Cuz is fighting 1 versus 3, by the way, and this is why DRX needed to try and go for that reset. They had their back stopped, and Cuz says absolutely not, my friend. And now Pyosik at the mercy of T1. The huge piercing arrow is going to connect and connect again, as Beck is now in so much trouble. He has to get back to his fountain, and T1.
And Mouth, here goes the Baron, and sieging with this composition and an Infernal Soul is a nightmare for DRX.
We're going to have a look at live here. Carrier looking for Kingen. He'll find it. Oh my god, Teddy, that damage is ridiculous. And the Gnar is very, very dead, just not able to be pushed up in a side lane here, but he's just going to settle for locking up this inhibitor. Solar Flare comes out now as Becca. Now with the quickness, in goes Carrier, goes Golden as well. Look at the AoE, it's revolting! Bao will just get tidied up by this horse. The perfect execution to get right on top of all these carries. That's a very, very quick ace. You blink and you'll miss it, and T1 are in round 2 of the playoffs.
And it was a valiant effort from DRX. I still insist that they played better than any of us had expected. This team was slumping, they gave it their all. We saw Hanwha Live put a lot of importance on, and I wonder how the metagame is going to keep developing as we progress throughout this split, right? What are we going to see? What is going to happen? As, yeah, that's a lot of damage coming out from Teddy, and this is into a comp that has so much backline threat.
Thank you very much, guys, and T1 is advancing to the next round of the LCK Spring Playoffs. In game number 4, I think T1 was able to find a very decent comp. What's your take of their draft, guys? I think Zoe coming in really fast was very impressive. Even though we had a first pick Gnar coming out from DRX, still T1 prioritized the lead in the mid lane actually, so they locked in Zoe and Hikarim in the first pick for the red side. T1 today was focusing on their lane priority, and because of the power that their bottom duos had all throughout the 4 games, they kind of focused on the top side of the map. Today, Kana was able to flex on the opponents with his wide champion pool, so maybe Hikarim could have been a bit better pick for DRX in order to compensate and balance out the power on the top side. And Varus was really impressive as well, especially in the last game. Most of the hyper carry late game auto-based AD carry champions were banned out, so Varus was on the top of the tier list, in fact. I think T1 has went through this kind of a matchup during the scrims, and that's the reason why they had their tier list done. Now let's take a look at this first highlight. T1 was getting super ahead based on the lane priority that they had on the bottom lane, so DRX was forcing to open teamfight around the early objective. So let's take a look at this replay. Faker stepped down on the lane in order to pick up that exhaust on the ground, so they were able to chunk down Zoe. And also Gnar had lane priority as well, so Pyosik was thinking, we're winning mid, we're winning top, so let's just start this Herald. But this means that if you're starting this Herald, well, Kyria and Teddy can also make a rotation. The duos that have been dominating the lane. Orianna was able to show off her fancy feat for a moment, but still, T1 was able to easily outnumber DRX's players and easily pick up that Herald as well. I think DRX, their main issue throughout the split is about, missing out the tempo for that first Herald. They are always too caught up with that first Herald, and they always overcommit to take it away. Especially today, I think they were in a rush in order to lock down the first objective, which allowed T1 to take the agenda to punish their awkward positioning and bad teamfight opening. T1, because they have enough experience to deal with this kind of situation, they actually played with DRX on their hands. I think in a short period of time, T1 was able to understand and analyze the characteristic that DRX had in their playstyle. Now let's take a look at the second highlight where T1 was able to dominate the game at 10-minute mark in the game. There were so many control wards on the side of the enemy blue camp for T1, which means Kyria had this clue that Pyosik will be around the bottom side of the map. So Kyria tries to go in order to spot that Pyosik looking for a setup play, and a fantastic skill combo actually comes in order to buy more time for Kyria, and then Teddy holds on until the exhaust to fall off and then casts his empowered Q. Kyria was able to buy enough time for Faker to join this fight as well. It looked like a very easy kill secured by T1, even though they got outnumbered from the beginning of the skirmish. I think T1 was leveling up as the games went by. Compared to game number 1, at the end of game number 4, T1 looked super solid, and the POG will be going over to Cuz on Hecarim. That's less Hecarim in this game, and he was participating in most of the kills in the early game, and I think this early Smite fight was super critical because either Pyosik or Cuz could hit level 6, the one who took that Krug. And Cuz is so good at playing with consistency. He never throws, he's always in a very safe spot, but at the same time, he knows how to play the gameplay button. At the end of the game, he was able to play up against 4 players by himself, but still, he didn't die. Right here, he was diving onto the opponent's carries. Faker was able to chunk down that Ezreal, so Cuz was confident enough to zone that Ezreal away, and he predicted the QW combo coming out from Orianna, so he sidesteps and then runs away, even putting so much damage onto the opponents. And Cuz will be the POG winner for game number 4, and all the top side players will be winning today's POG on the side of T1.